this particular stretch is going to help open up things like biceps tendon. It's going to help loosen up your pecs so that you're not internally rotated as far as going overhead, which can restrict how secure your overhead position is. This is a pretty basic opener as far as getting some scapular retraction, loosening up the pecs.
And you want to, when you do this, you want to like get the band tight and then crank and get into external rotation, so palm up. Because when palm's down, you're not really feeling any stretch. Once you raise that palm, you're going to feel it in your pec minor and all down your bicep and everything like that. It's going to open everything up and just kind of turn into it. And you can hold this for probably 30 to 45 seconds is fine. And then just switch it to the other side. The next one I really like for front rack position for like a front squat. And they all begin with, because some people get confused with how they do the band. They're like, I don't know what to do. And so I always remember like hand from the bottom to the top, and then get your fangs, and then you pinch it. So then you have your legs locked in here. And then, so this one helps me with front rack position. So you're coming around, and you're bringing, it's pulling you up, and then you want your, it would be internal, external rotation.
External.
Yeah. So you want your thumb to point your thumb towards that whiteboard. And what I like to do is I like to grab my other arm and bring my elbow and bring it to my head. And that's just you're gonna feel it a little bit more. And this for me, this helps with like front rack position and like overhead stuff too.
Whenever you pull down, you think of bringing the arm closer this way so you can get tight that way. But also if you bench, the lats are also a primary mover because again, since they're an adductor, as your arms pass this angle, your lats are they're going to be used to pass through this angle. So if you bench a lot, do a lot of pull-ups, this can get chronically tight, and that affects how far overhead you can get. So if you're restricted here, like this is limited, also your front rack is going to be limited because of this. So if you can loosen that up, get to a better position, front rack's going to be better, it'll be easier to go overhead.
Another one that would open up that is positioning the band like on the pull-up bar. Same, you wrap it the same way, same hand position, and externally rotate, and then you pull down, and that the same arm, whatever arm has the band, that leg goes back. Take a knee, externally rotate, take your other arm, throw it on your forearm so you can force that external rotation, and then like crank down and try to like crank your armpit to your other leg or other foot, and that's going to really hit your lat too and open all that up. And then this next one will work more like internal rotation.
This one I wouldn't do pre-workout, especially if you're impinged or you have shoulder issues to begin with, because it kind of hurts. You'll feel better after doing it, but it hurts at the time. Plus, it'll restrict your movement for later on. So I would do this like the night before.
So this one's the most like confusing to get into. So you turn into it, and you end up in this position. You want to have your palm up, and basically step into it and kind of like square your body up. And you're gonna feel it all right here. The more your palm is up, the more you're gonna feel that. And you can always tie your neck into it, and that is just gonna it's just gonna hurt more.
Feels good even without the band.
If you have a deficit, that's a sign that something's not right, and there's an indication that you can work on fixing that deficit. Because even if you're not going to snatch a whole lot, if your internal rotation is lacking in the bench and you're challenging that under two things, both extension and internal rotation, you might be losing some force out of the bottom of your bench. So it'd be something you might consider working on so that you can have a better bottom position here, be able to drive off the chest a little bit harder. Also, if you're intending to snatch, you're going to pass through that range of motion. And if you don't have that to begin with, then you're going to be tearing up some of your tissues every time you do it. So internal rotation is the big one that we're going to take from the five-way shoulder for at least most of us here.
It's pulling like your scapula away, so you're coming out like this, and then you crank your palm up and push down, and then you move that way.
If you have a desk job and you're at a computer, you're basically always fixed in this position. So scapular mobility kind of suffers from that. So what we want to do with the things like where you work on the lacrosse ball to meet the border or doing the stretch is to kind of restore some movement to your scapula. It's going to help with things like retracting better. So a lot of benching, a lot of desk work, all that will affect how well your scapulas can move. So you want to try to restore some movement so that when you go overhead, again, any kind of shoulder function, like this is going to be a better. It'll help your movement.
Because like a lot of times in anything overhead to help like prevent like any impingement at the top, once you get to the top, you try and rotate those, like the scapula up slightly. And if you don't have any movement in that, it's harder. So, and then some people just have terrible like overhead, and they're just like, this is their overhead. And then just the one more from the, if you can do it from pull-up bar. It's basically the same as that second one I showed you. Real similar. You put your elbow in here, in the band, and your hand around on the outside, so you're kind of like tied into it, and then you pull out forward, so it's opening up your lat again, and then you want to externally rotate with your palm going out. But that's just like an arsenal of different shoulder stretches that you can do that will definitely help. That